Good morning students. Welcome to our new online video class of chemistry. I am Vishnupriya, your new chemistry teacher. Let's start our class.
In this year, we have 5 chapters how to study from chemistry. First is chemical reactions and equations. Second one is acids, base and salts. Third one is metals and non-metals. Fourth one is carbon and its compounds. And fifth one is periodic classification of elements. So today we are going to start our first chapter, chemical reactions and equations. In this chapter we will study about chemical reactions, chemical equations, types of chemical reactions and effect of oxidation reaction in everyday life. As we observe the changes around us, we can see that there is a large variety of chemical reactions taking place around us. You have already learned in your previous classes about physical and chemical changes. Here are some examples for physical and chemical changes that occurs in our life. Melting of ice, chopping of wood and evaporation of water. These are examples of physical changes. And rusting of iron, souring of milk are examples for chemical changes. Then what is the difference between these chemical changes and physical changes? Physical change, it is the process in which no new chemical substances are formed. For example, in the case of melting of ice, we know that when ice melts, it converted into liquid. Here, both ice and liquid are chemically same, that is water. Its chemical formula is H2O. So, in this process, we can say there is no new chemical substance are formed. Here, the only change is in its physical properties such as shape, size, etc. And it is a temporary change. Next one is chemical change, and it is the process in which the original substance lose their identity, nature and form new chemical substance with different properties. Examples are rusting of iron articles, souring of milk in summer and burning of coke in air. The process involving a chemical change is called chemical reaction. Then actually what is meant by a chemical reaction? How do we come to know that a chemical reaction has taken place? Let's see some activities related to it. Burning of magnesium ribbon in air. And the materials required for this experiment are tongs, spirit lamp or burner, watch glass and magnesium ribbon. First, clean a piece of magnesium ribbon by rubbing with the sandpaper to remove the layer of magnesium oxide and burn it in air with the spirit lamp. Keep a china dish below. We can observe the magnesium ribbon burns with a dazzling light and a white powder obtained in china dish. Here the magnesium reacts with the oxygen form magnesium oxide. Do you know why the magnesium ribbon is rubbed with the sandpaper before doing the experiment? Because it is coated with the white layer of magnesium oxide due to the attack of moisture air. Another example for chemical reaction is reaction between lead nitrate and potassium iodide. If we prepare lead nitrate solution in one test tube and potassium iodide solution in another test tube and then mix the two solutions, we observe that yellow solid appears. This yellow solid is a new chemical compound, namely lead iodide. Another substance formed is potassium nitrate, which we cannot see as it remains in the solution. In this reaction, lead nitrate and potassium iodide are colorless. If we mix together it, we get lead iodide and potassium nitrate. Lead iodide is yellow in color and potassium nitrate is colorless. Now we see two examples of chemical reaction. In the first reaction, magnesium and oxygen react together to form magnesium oxide. Here magnesium and oxygen are reactant and magnesium oxide is product. In the case of second example, lead nitrate and potassium iodide are reactants and lead iodide and potassium nitrates are products. From these examples, we can say what is chemical reaction. Chemical reactions are chemical change in which reactants transform into product by making or breaking bond between different atoms. That means chemical reaction is a chemical change in which the reactants react together to form products. During chemical reaction, bond breaking or bond making of reactants taking place. Chemical substances taken originally which may react together are called reactants. The chemical substances formed are called products. When a chemical reaction takes place, some changes are observed. The easily observable changes that take place in a chemical reaction are called characteristics of chemical reaction. These changes help us to check that a chemical reaction has taken place. Some important characteristics of chemical reaction are change in temperature, change in color, formation of precipitate, and change in state. In this chapter, our main aim is therefore to study the different types of reactions. But before we take up this study, it is important to understand how a chemical reaction is represented in terms of chemical equation.
What is a chemical equation? It is a shorthand representation of chemical reaction in terms of symbols and formulas of different products and reactants. Consider reaction between magnesium and oxygen. We say that magnesium and oxygen react together to form magnesium oxide. This is a long sentence we have to write. Same case exists in any other chemical reactions. As we have to study lot of chemical reaction, we use shorthand method, that is chemical equation. We can write the chemical reaction in two methods. First is word form. This is the word form representation of chemical reaction between magnesium and oxygen. And here the reactants are written on the left hand side with a plus sign in between the reactants. And the product is written on the right hand side. And an arrow is put in between reactant and product. This arrow indicates such that the direction of reactant is towards the product. This representation is not too short. Thus we use another representation, that is formulae and symbol form. Here the reaction is written in the form of formulae or symbols. It is called the chemical equation. Here the magnesium is written as Mg. Mg is the symbol of magnesium and oxygen is written as O2 because the symbol of oxygen is O. And the magnesium oxide is written as MgO because the chemical formula of magnesium is MgO. Here also the reactants are written on the left hand side and the product is written on the right hand side. Consider another example, the reaction between zinc and sulfuric acid. Zinc and sulfuric acid react together to form zinc sulfate and hydrogen. Here the reactants are zinc and sulfuric acid. Products are zinc sulfate and hydrogen. Then we are going to write its chemical equation. Zn plus H2SO4 gives ZnSO4 plus H2. Zn is the symbol of zinc. H2SO4 is the chemical formula of sulfuric acid. ZnSO4 is the chemical formula of zinc sulfate. And H2. H is the symbol of hydrogen. Here also the reactants are written on the left hand side and put a plus sign between two reactants. Then the products are written on the right hand side. Here also put a plus sign between the reactants and this arrowhead indicates the direction towards reactants and products.
I hope you all have understood about today's class. Let's recollect what we learned today. We learned today about chemical change and physical change, chemical reactions and chemical equations.